Don't ask for am I, come into the power and say I am. And I think that that's something that we keep going and saying, am I this? Am I okay? Is my business right? Am I supposed to do this? And even if you're saying it to yourself over and over again, I am this, and this is the dream, and I am, and I am, and I am, you'll start believing it. Sometimes like you have an idea and you don't know where it's going to go, but then you like do it. And then you look back and you see there's such a beauty in coming up with an idea and then looking back and even if it's not the way you thought it was going to turn out, the fact that you did it and you spent the time doing something that you really had dreamed of is something I can't stop doing. And I think I'll do it till the day I die.
Hey, Dream Drivers. Welcome to episode 186 of the Dreams and Drive podcast. And this is a special episode. It is our 3rd year anniversary of Dreams and Drive. On January 1st, 2016, I put this dream into gear and Dreams and Drive was born. That's over 700,000 downloads. That's over 186 episodes, over 150 guests, countless solo episodes, so many opportunities, so many new friends, so many new community members, so many more dream drivers. So first off, there's some things that I just want to say thank you to everybody who's listening right now. You may not think that just saying a brief thank you or commenting on a post or responding to me in any way means anything, but I'm telling you, I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Sometimes I sit back and think about episode 1 with David Michael Jones and even episode 2 where I talked about me buying my car and everything that I learned from that experience. The biggest takeaway over these past few years, or these past 3 years to be exact, has been this: do not quit. You can pivot, you can pause, you can go in neutral, you can go in reverse, you can sit and assess, but know that that fire inside of you is there for a reason, and it's your duty to keep it burning, okay? So many times along our journeys, we doubt ourselves. We say, am I good enough? Is this for me? We have a lot of question marks, but we need to turn those question marks into periods. And Meghan Asha is going to help us do that. So Meghan is the CEO of FounderMade, which is a platform and conference series that connects consumer brands to retailers, distributors, and investors. And over her career, Meghan has worked as an analyst for a venture capital firm. She's interviewed leaders of technology companies for a weekly internet talk show, and she's built her own digital media platform. So she's going to take us through how she did that, but more importantly, she's going to really talk about why we have to be invested in the journey, why we need to be invested in this I am mentality, because that's going to be what's going to fuel our journey and really help us navigate things that we don't know. So before we get into the episode, a few announcements. We are going to be doing a book giveaway. You guys know I love books and I want to do more book giveaways this year. So this week's book is going to be Homegoing by Ya Gyasi. And I talk about this in this episode about how for me, reading fiction is like my way to get away, my way to relax. So what better way than to share one of my favorite books of 2018 with you guys? It's the story of these two families and following these two families from slavery time. One is on the continent of Africa, one is in America. And just following their story, you guys, it's a really, really great read. And I really think that anybody who wants to understand storytelling, wants to understand your own journey, please pick it up or consider it or enter our giveaway. Just go to dreamsanddrive.com/win. That's dreamsanddrive.com/win to enter. And please make sure wherever you're listening to subscribe to our channel, wherever audio platform you're on. If you're an Apple Podcast, please leave us a rating and review. I'm going to read our review of the week. And this one is coming from C the Visionary. And it reads, I tune into your show often. I know you often talk about how quitting your corporate job to fully pursue dreams and drive has been scary. And I don't know if you've been looking for a sign about whether you're on the right track since quitting, but here's your sign. I love your show and it has helped me and inspired me to keep going in the darkest of times. Wow. The fact that you upload consistently and have been doing so for years is so inspiring to my inconsistent self. Listen, after 3 years of Dreams and Drive, it has definitely been hard, but I think once again, for anybody who is struggling with inconsistency, you just gotta think about what's the goal. And for me, the goal is what would happen if I show up for myself year after year, month after month, day after day? Can I really grow something? And it showed me you really can grow, you know? He says, I plan to get some merch soon so I can rep DID. Thank you. Keep going. We're watching and rooting for you, Raina. Well, thank you so much. And I hope you do get some merch. Remember, guys, if you want to get a Dreams and Drive t-shirt, hoodie, or crew neck, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/shop. Remember, if you love this episode, if you're just excited for Dreams and Drive in 2019, please share on social. We are Dreams and Drive across the board on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can use the hashtag Dreams and Drive. You never know how sharing can ignite a fire in somebody else. So please, please, please help me on that front. Last but not least, you guys can be on the lookout for some cool stuff from Dreams and Drive in 2019. I'm committed to doing videos. I'm committed to getting some programs and offerings up. I am committed, lastly, to growth. My big goal for 2019 is to grow our platform, grow our community, grow our distribution partnerships. As you guys know, I'm a writer for XO Nicole. So if you want to pitch me on that front, you can always email me. If you want to pitch me to be on the Dreams and Drive podcast in 2019, please pitch me at dreamsanddrive.com/pitch. Get on my radar because I'm going to have a lot of stuff going in 2019. So even if things don't work for Dreams and Drive, the podcast, they might work for another project. So definitely make sure you're in my database, you're on my radar. Every week I get in the driver's seat and I put the key in the ignition. I remind myself that that's always the hardest part. And you may not always know where you're going. You may not always have the GPS right. You may get a flat tire at times. If you feel like giving up, don't, because you might just be one day away from the next big break. And why sell yourself short? All right, so let's hear from Meghan and let's put this I am mentality into use in 2019. So Meghan, this interview is a long time coming, right? We were initially introduced to each other via Melody McCloskey of Style Seat. I want to say maybe like a year and a half ago.
She's one of my best friends. I love her.
Yes, I love Melody. And now she's a mommy. I just love seeing her on Instagram, just being in mommy mode, you know?
It's amazing. It's amazing.
So, I like to start our interviews going back in time, Meghan. If I had to ask you, who was the 10-year-old Meghan? What was inspiring you back then? How would you respond?
So, so going back and it's so funny because I think you, as a kid, you don't know like exactly who you are, but you know exactly who you are, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I was a little Miss Bossy for sure. Cause there's some videos that I'm like very embarrassed about of me directing people and bossing I'm the oldest of 4 kids. So definitely Little Miss Bossy was one thing. But then I also I loved building this, like randomly I would like build little houses. I wanted to be an architect. I also was like a performer. So I was in all the musicals and sang and danced. So very creative. So that's like 10-year-old Meghan. I mean, but it's funny that journey of being, and I think it goes from being like a child to a young adult to, knowing what your, learning what your skill sets are and learning and then being hard on yourself and then coming into your power as an entrepreneur later on in your life. That I think that journey is something that you can only really see until you can see 2020, but from when you get to, part of building your dream and so it's funny. When people say hindsight's 2020, I really totally agree.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I recently found an autograph book that I had from 6th grade. And I kid you not, every person in there either said I was too bossy, I talked too much, or I was in everyone's business, right? It's funny because those 3 things now are they might have been seen as negative traits back then or just annoying traits to my friends, but those have definitely been things that have really made me who I am today. Do you think there was a specific strength that you had as a child that looking back at it now, you're like, wow, I was really good at that?
What was I? I was definitely a multitasker. So I loved activities. I like to be extremely active. And I thought I could be president of all the clubs. And, if I wasn't in advanced, course, if I didn't test in, I would find a way to get in without, or make a fit to get in. So apparently very type A. But yeah, there's those funny things, and I think that one of the things that held me back, and I didn't get to my power or get to building my dreams sooner was I was really self-conscious and really hard on myself. And that was a lot. Now looking back, I'm that's such a waste. That's, worry is a waste of time. It actually is such a waste of time. And it's actually, shunning your power by spending your time worrying, and it gets you in yourself and your ego. And so, my advice is really definitely spend less time worrying and don't be so hard on yourself, because every great business starts with an idea, and it starts small. And there really is no small ideas.
So how did growing up, I know your father, he was an entrepreneur himself, right? How did he influence you as you grew older? And like, what lessons did you learn from seeing all that he was able to accomplish?
For context, my dad came from India with a backpack and nothing else. And he bought, when I was 2 years old, like a tech, he bought a patent from Hewlett Packard. He was working at Hewlett Packard. We were living in an apartment, and he bought it for like a couple $1,000, and he ended up turning that into like a, massive technology company. But it took him about 25 years. I watched basically us, go from an apartment to a house next to Barry Bonds' house. Now that house is gone. So I watched his journey, go from the ups and the downs, and just the work. He worked all the time. He was gone 3 weeks out of every month, in Asia, and working, to build this manufacturing company in technology. And it's definitely watching that journey. And then it's funny because now he's in his 70s, and he says, I don't want to sit with all the 70-year-olds and just be fancy and do his thing. He's like, He's like, there's nothing more beautiful than building. And he's like, sometimes like you have an idea and you don't know where it's going to go, but then you like do it. And then you look back and you see there's such a beauty in coming up with an idea and then looking back, and even if it's not the way you thought it was going to turn out, the fact that you did it and you spent the time doing something that you really had dreamed of is something I can't stop doing. And I think I'll do it till the day I die. And I hope that I, do the same thing. And you may feel crazy as an entrepreneur or, a business builder trying to, work really hard and build something when people don't believe in you or you get a bunch of no's. But, really it's about perseverance, and it's about, just seeing things through and again, not being so hard on yourself.
So going into college, what was the dream? Like, when you're young, your freshman year, and you have this idea for yourself, what was that for you?
Oh my goodness. I had a lot of different dreams. I wanted to be an opera singer. That was one of the dreams.
Wow.
Yes.
Do you like to sing?
Yes.
Or can you sing?
I do. And but I'm not like a singer. Let's be honest.
Okay.
I think I sing. I mean, I harmonize better than I actually, I should never, but I'm a good, I can sing, but I wouldn't, but you're not going to put me in Juilliard. Let's just be honest. Even though I auditioned. So I definitely wanted to do that. Just because I love singing and I love the community stuff. What else did I want to do? I was a psychology major, but that was just because I think I was trying to figure out myself too much in college. and I was like really trying to understand why I was like going, exactly. I was like, well, who am I? What am I doing? What's my purpose here? It's kind of, philosophy and psychology were things that I was very focused on, early on. But and then I went into finance right after undergrad, and I thought, well, and this was partially because I was, firstborn Indian daughter, and I wanted to, or half Indian daughter, and I wanted to please my father. And I thought, oh my gosh, this hedge fund, this finance thing, my dad will love me if I go in and I want to be independent. I want to make a lot of money. I don't want to ever depend on anyone. And so I went into hedge funds, and I worked for one of the biggest hedge funds, in technology, out of undergrad. And, it was such an interesting learning experience on integrity, because it was a top tier hedge fund. And then now, the guy's in jail, and, you can't buy integrity, you can't buy integrity. And I mean, it was an interesting time. It was very, I definitely, it just knowing it's that journey of like not knowing and knowing that you don't fit, but you having to try out and be in these different job positions where you don't really fit and you don't feel right in these positions is actually part of the process. Then you end up looking back on all of your jobs and you're like, oh, that makes so much sense. And actually the victory of actually doing what you love every day is so much more sweet. Like it doesn't matter, the money will come, when you persevere, and everything will work out, but you have to go through the process, and nobody can take away like a day well spent doing something you love.
So when you were working at the hedge fund, you wouldn't necessarily say that you loved it, right?
I would say it was, no.
Okay. No. So when was the moment, or like when, after leaving there, like How did you go about finding a passion or a journey that you actually enjoyed?
I definitely finding my, and this is something that I think is such a personal thing. And so there's no wrong way, or there's no, like, I was looking actually for a formula of how do you find your passion? What am I supposed to do? And I would ask everyone around me. I'd actually go to business seminars, and I would come up to the speaker after the business seminar, and I'd say, this is my path, and I've done this, and I've done this, and I've done this. What do you think I should do now? So it was like looking for validation from everyone else. Like I was looking for the business whisperer. Like, what business should I start? What should I do? I know I can do this, this, and this, but what should I do? And what I think happened and what changed is, so after, just as for context, after I worked in finance, I started a digital media platform, and did that and sold that, and then went to business school. And it still was my path. It was my path, but not my path. It was very much in media. But it wasn't exactly aligned with like my soul and like what I'm supposed to do in the world. And so, after business school, I was working in venture capital, and I was juggling another job. And I was a little miserable because I was like, I know I'm supposed to be an entrepreneur. I have all these friends around me, and, I'm seeing Melody, and I'm seeing Pyle from ClassPass, Melody from Style Scene. I'm like, they love it. They're doing it. They're doing the good work of being awesome female entrepreneurs. And what am I doing here? I think I'm, the investing side is not what I want to do. And so I said to myself, I'm like, I'm just going to ask myself, when you're 90, what will make you happy? And that question changed the game for me, because you look at, okay, when you're 90, what is your 90-year-old self going to smile down on? Like what day, who is your 90-year-old self going to smile down on and smile about the relationships you built, or the family, the family rituals you created, or, the what you built in the world, or who you impacted? What is that 90-year-old self? And I said, you know what, my 90-year-old self is going to smile down on me doing these dinners and calling them FounderMade. And I'm going to it's going to be like entrepreneur therapy. So I guess background in like the psychology therapy. Yeah. Exactly. And I'm just going to do 12 dinners this year. I'm going to bring these entrepreneurs that I knew when I started my first company, and, founder of Squarespace, some founders in food and beauty and wellness. And I'm going to do these segmented dinners, and I'm just going to call them FounderMade, and I'm just going to do them. And that's it. And I'm going to just keep my jobs and kind of do this for fun. And I remember our first dinner, and it was in the bottom of my gym complex in my apartment building. And I was like, so we had an apartment building, how they have the gyms downstairs, and so there was like a shared space, and I like convinced the guy to give it to me for free. I convinced the caterer to do it for, God, I don't even know, like a couple $100. I was like, didn't have any sponsors. I just got like my friends to like speak, and, had like 20 or 30 people. And it was just like a random Monday night. And, I remember my friend, after, she comes up to me and she says, and I'm like, what is this? Why am I even doing this FounderMade dinner series? What does it even mean? And she said, Megan, follow the breadcrumbs. Like, this is something that you love, and you should just have no judgment and just do it just because you love it. And thank God I had like people around me who really just wanted me to be happy. And I think that's a really important thing as an entrepreneur, and especially as you're building your dream. You have to protect it, and you have to protect it around, and you have to have, even if you only have one friend, or maybe it's only you as a friend to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, because that's part, and you have to just understand that it starts just smaller, and it starts small, and then people start believing, and then they start believing more, and then people start believing more, and then you can grow, but it takes perseverance. And the more no's you get, it's actually a great thing, because you learn from them and you get better, and you figure, and that's part of the universe, or that's part of learning about perseverance and staying in something long. And before, when I was younger and I do these businesses, I would stay in long enough to know if they would be successful or not. I had a little bit of a brat mentality, and I'd say, oh, this is hard, or this business isn't going to be big enough. I'm going to switch. I'm going to do something else. And I do a product company, and I do this. And it was like, it was not good enough. And what I realized from, building FounderMade in this journey has been, it's all about perseverance. We've had, when I first started, we would, call, all the brands and try to get them to exhibit, and, there'd be a bunch of no's, and, it's so different now. But that's because we've been in the game and we've been working our butts off to add value and to really execute on our word. It's just part of the perseverance game. It's just really saying, okay, this part of the business isn't making money. Why isn't it making money? Or these customers are upset. Well, what's happening that we promised something and we didn't deliver? Well, what do we need to solve for in this business?
I was going to say, going back to the idea of following the breadcrumbs, right? So you're at the dinner series, or you're doing the dinner series. When was that moment, or how did you know that it could be something bigger? And then what steps did you take to start scaling that?
So it went from these dinners. And then I was friends with one of the women at Kind Bar, and she represented Daniel Lubetzky, who founded the Kind Bar. And I said, hey, I'd love for Daniel to speak at one of my dinners. And she said, well, he's not going to speak in front of 30 people. He's launching a book. He needs to do 300. He needs to speak in front of like a 300 person audience. And so I said, oh, well, I can find 300 people and do this. And I basically launched, this, it was an evening conference. We did it with Well and Good. We did Shark Tank for Wellness. We had Daniel Lubetzky. We had these gift bags that I had ironed on inspirational sayings. It was like our first, iteration of the FounderMade gift bag, which if you come to our conferences, if you're a ticket holder, you get like $1,000 worth of full size products of, from beauty, wellness, food products. But this was like the very makeshift thing. And I just did it just as such a labor of love. And we put on this event from 6 to 9 p.m. and it was sold out. We were expecting like 100 people, 400 people showed up. It was
Wow.
like a crazy, it was at the Gansevoort. We first were at this one space that was big enough for everybody. And then we got pushed at last minute. Love the event, business. And we got pushed to like the Gansevoort meat packing. And it was all a lot of learning in terms of, production. It was definitely not our best produced or our most polished produced event.
How much time did you give yourself from pitching him the idea to making it all happen? Like, were you on a short timetable?
Yeah, very short. So probably about 2.5 months. So we hadn't even, the way that we did this is it was very startup where we were throwing events on the calendar for whatever. So if somebody would give us a venue for free, we would basically just take their dead dates and we would use those dates and we would do them like we would be doing events like every 2 months or every 3 months. And we didn't have a consistent calendar. We didn't even know really how we were really, we monetized, but we didn't know why exhibitors would even buy into to be at our shows. And now, we cut 2 years later, we're, one of the, premier consumer brand conferences where brands come to our summits to meet relevant buyers, relevant retailers, relevant media. And then we do these buyer one-on-ones. We have, we've had everyone from, Bobbi Brown, the founder of Drybar, Ali Webb, founder of Navitas, Vega, you name it, Huda Beauty. They've all spoken at our conference and it's just been we've had like a couple thousand attendees and it's just been like a fun dream realized, V1 as you say.
Mm-hmm. Were you doing this like alongside a 9-to-5 or were you doing it full time from the beginning?
No, the beginning I ended up, and it was funny because before when I was an entrepreneur, I would quit my job immediately and I would just jump into something and I would just do it. And because I had been burned a couple of times doing that, and even like I'd quit my job, we'd raise money, then me and my co-founder would have an issue. There was always like something that kind of was a little bit of a hiccup, and there wasn't. And we'd raise money, we wouldn't have the right business model, and then it would just there was a lot of like false starts that happened with my previous businesses, and so I was very, very, very cautious in how and when I decided to quit my jobs. And so I was juggling 2 jobs. I was working in venture capital and then I was doing business development for an HR recruiting firm and started and was basically doing these conferences. And so I remember I'd be in like the corner, in the elevator area doing cold calls for FounderMade, making sure we were getting exhibitors and calling speakers and getting them to speak, and convincing them to speak at the conference while I was like doing my other jobs or being flown to conferences to do my other jobs. So it was definitely a lot of juggling, but it was something, it didn't feel like work and it was so much fun.
So when was the moment where you knew you couldn't keep that lifestyle up?
I think I had come up with an idea on how this thing would scale, and we haven't actually launched the part of the business that is like the ultimate, bigger, like, or it's just like the big dream yet. Mm-hmm. But we have built it. And so we basically built a technology product to basically connect our brands, our retailers and our brands. And so, once I figured out the tech behind the conferences, that was when I was like, okay, I want to put it all, I want to start and really, focus on this.
What was something along the FounderMade story that like was a challenge that you really, really had to work through and it took some time?
That's a great question. And we had one. So we were originally, we were doing these verticalized shows. So future of food, future of beauty, future of wellness. And then we launched last November, actually almost exactly a year from now. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It was November 17th and 18th last year. We launched our first consumer discovery show.
Oh, that's the one I went to. Yeah. It was at a nice
Spring
event
Studios.
Space. Yes.
Yeah. The Spring Studios. And we had 150 exhibitors, so brands that were exhibiting, launching their products. And it was, we did not realize what being in a trade show, we didn't realize we had gone from being in like a summit to a trade show. And what people that are exhibiting at a trade show need for production, need for support and attendees, need for clear pricing. So we, when we first started, we would be like, okay, this, our pricing was like, smaller for some startups. It wasn't clear pricing. So basically we had a 2-day show. The production was absolutely terrible. We didn't even know we had white tables. It was just like the whole thing. I'm sure you thought it was great.
I know. I was going to be like, girl, it was fabulous. I know.
But now if you look at it, if you come to our shows, we have like the best fashion trade show producer on the planet. Like she's been doing this for 12, 15 years, and we have beautiful white walls. We have if you see our everything, it's just like we didn't even have a real registration system. I think my team was printing out badges the night before. I mean, you name it. It was like complete. It was just a very a different show last year than what we've done for this year. And so I got an email on the Saturday night. So it was a Friday and a Saturday show. And I got an email from one of our exhibitors CCing 30 of our clients and saying FounderMade, it was to the effect, and I wish I could bring up the email, but it was basically like FounderMade's a fraud. And you guys don't care about founders. You don't care about entrepreneurs. This show, I found out I was, with an exhibitor that was doing this, and, just, there was a whole thing. And basically and this is like that time in your life where you're like, okay, if somebody's going to call you out on something, are you going to hide, or are you going to come to the table and say, you know what, the customer's always right, and how do I make this right? Mm-hmm. And so I spent me and my team, we spent about 2 months calling every customer and saying, hey, we want, tell us what you think. This is our first real show. We're learning. We want to grow with you. How can we make this right? And we did. And it's been like such an awesome change. And the problems, like the major problems that we had at the November show, we've solved for. And we have, exhibitors that have come back and just like love us. But it's, when a customer's unhappy, and then you have your one of your customers CC all 30 of your other customers and write, bullet points on how the show didn't meet their expectation, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You're going to come to the table and you're going to show up and you're going to do it, make it right. Because at the end of the day, your word is your word. And and if we genuinely want to drive value, we need to know as much as possible about how we're doing it and how we can do it better and more efficiently.
I think that's such a great point because I feel along any of our journeys, right? You're going to come to a point where people will get opposition. Like even sometimes I'll go on the iTunes reviews and I'll see that someone said, "Oh my God, you have horrible sound," or, things like that. Like you really have to take that into account and don't see it as, what's the word? Like they're not trying to, like, do you get what I'm saying? Like a lot of people could take that as something negative and shut down, but you really want to take that as constructive criticism and as a way to build.
Yep. I mean, I love, and really at the end of the day, when you're in business, anybody who's in business gets whacked at some point. You're not in business. And the more you face the whacks and you face the problems, then the faster you can get to your ultimate goal. So just facing those, figuring it out, like moving forward as quickly as possible. That's the name of the game. It's just part of it. It's like chief problem solver is, I think, what some people call the CEO, right? So it's like, give me your problem and let's solve for it.
One of the other things that I really admired about the brand, even when I was at the Consumer Discovery Show, is just the depth of speakers that you had. And it just seemed like, I'm like, wow, Meghan must be connected to the gods, right? Like you had so many deep networks there, so many great speakers. And you mentioned you had to cold call a lot of people, right? Like there was a lot of hustling going on behind the scenes. What was your strategy for getting people to say yes?
So when we first, and this was again an example of the first show that we put on, which was the one with Daniel Lubetsky from Kind Bar. I knew, just from my experience with TechCrunch and these conferences, is getting you have to get your premier person to speak, and then you can basically build off of that. So when you're doing these types of things and getting people to say yes, it's like, oh, so-and-so and so-and-so, are speaking, and that kind of helps. And that's what we see with our events is when we get a bunch of amazing exhibitors, then all these other exhibitors want to come, or amazing retailers. It's just show business. Yeah, it's show business, and it's and exactly. And now we've been lucky enough to have a great track record, and people love our shows, and the retailers love our shows, and so we just have to keep maintaining that and building upon it and driving more value. So it's been fun.
So let's say you're not connected. Let's say you're legit starting from the bottom, right? Like you don't even know anyone who knows anyone. How would you go about, or how would you suggest someone go about building that audience and really getting the ball rolling on their movement?
I mean, first of all, I think the best way to do it is you come up with a hit list of people that you want to learn from, and you ask them for advice. And because most people who are in a senior position or people that you want to get in contact with do actually want to give advice, and they want to be helpful, and they want to mentor, their younger self. I mean, that's part of the reason why this business exists, is because I wanted to create a place where if my younger self who was starting her business, she would feel comfortable and learn the playbook from all the other people in as entrepreneurs. So I really think it's first, literally come up with your hit list, and then go out and find their emails and find their phone numbers and just start and just don't take no for an answer. It doesn't mean if they say no once, then say, oh wait, I just saw you in this article, or I just figured out that your favorite thing is peanut butter chocolate cups, and I'm sending them to your assistant. I love it when I get especially when we're recruiting, I had this, I love it when people are so, tenacious, and they are showing a lot of initiative and a lot of just care that they want to work for this company. So I think that there's that you want to see that from anybody. And when I see somebody who's emailed me 50 times, I'm like, wow, I should actually, let me just take this call, because it's actually awesome. It's actually awesome. I'm like, I appreciate the hustle. I know what I had to do to hustle. Anyone who has hustle appreciates the hustle. Let's be honest.
Moving along, in the events business, right? A lot of people don't realize it is an art within itself, right? Just the business of events. What's something that you have really learned about what it takes to run a successful event?
Successful event, number one is, obviously having incredible content, right? And then number two, and this is in no particular order. So these are all the most important things: production, environment, content, getting all the right people, overarching, just having the right theme of what type of event that you're doing, with a very clear why people should be there, what they're going to learn. Everyone's time is precious. So making sure that you really are drilling down the messaging on what this is and why it exists and why it's unique. And then of course, having, I think just having incredible experiences. So at FounderMade, we have incredible experiences on the show floor. We had, we had armpit facials from Kopari, at our last summit. We had, you name it, like there's kombucha, CBD, every beauty product was CBD and food product. And we had, a cordless hair dryer called Bolo. We had vegan eggs. It's these different types of, but we make it very experiential at our shows, so that we can really just make sure that, our audience it's not just a show, a buyer seller show. It's really an experiential show.
Mm-hmm. And in the events business too, I know it also can take a lot of money to produce a really well put together event. Did you go the route of sponsorships, or did you go the route of getting capital from ticket sales? And what would you suggest for the person who's starting out?
You can do both. So you should do both. And you can do both. That you can do sponsorships, you can do exhibitor sales, you can do, ticket sales. There's definitely lots of different revenue streams, and you can use deferred revenue to fund the event.
Okay. Yeah. Cause I feel like that's something that a lot of people often, they don't go into events because they don't feel like they have enough capital to do a really good one. Right. Would you say start small and then scale up, or would you say go hard and go home from the beginning?
No, I think you start at a level that you feel comfortable with. I mean, even for me, when we went to the Spring Studios in New York, and it was it's the fanciest, private club in New York City, where Vogue, CF50A awards, they use their space. And I remember our first show, and it was, they gave us, we did a partnership with them, but we still had to pay a lot of money for all the extras. And I remember looking at my co-founder at the time saying, oh my God, I'm gonna have to mortgage my house if we don't get covered this in sponsorship. What are we going to do? Oh my gosh, we should just end the event. This is so scary. And really, we ended up going, being profitable, but it was a real push to even do that. And now it's funny because now our event costs are crazy. But that's part of the event business is you have to, it's really, you have to make sure that your customers, you have to market it, you have to spend money marketing it. You have to make sure that your customers, especially when you have so many exhibitors, you have to make sure that they're well taken care of, and you support, and you have the attendees, and you have the foot traffic that they need and the right people in the room.
What part of being a CEO and the founder of, this type of business shocked you the deeper you got in? Was there something that you didn't expect, or something you had to really hone in your skills on as you grew?
Yeah. So I actually didn't think of myself as a CEO, and I feel like I got anointed to this, because this was my baby. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't actually ever, I always kind of deferred. And I think this was just part of a bad habit that I had with my other startups, which is, I would defer to my co-founders or whoever. And all of a sudden this was my creation, and this was my dream. And so it made sense for me to be CEO. And I would say skill sets that nobody teaches you in business school is, the perseverance game, number one, and which I keep referring to, because in handling it on a personal level where you don't get negative because you got to know, you just continue, you take it, and you go and you just take it in stride, and you try to move on to the next thing as fast as possible, or solve for it. So that's one thing. And then also just management and hiring, finding A+ players. I have an amazing mentor. She's 57. She's a gorgeous woman. She sold her company for so much, and she had 4 kids. She's literally the dream life that I hope to have at some point. And she said to me, on our first meeting, she goes, "Show me your org chart." And I show her my org chart, and she says, "So who of your team is A+?" And I say, "Oh, so-and-so, maybe not so-and-so." And she says, "So if you want to win the game, you're going to have A+ players. There's no more B+, because you won't even with A+ players, you may not win the game. And I just want you to start going through and thinking through when you're hiring, who's A+ and who's going to get you to the real win." And I think when I started this as a startup, because it was a bootstrap startup, and it was a side business. we weren't fair to the business at the time, where we were doing things so on the cheap. We weren't investing in talent. And, we weren't thinking strategically about, okay, if in 5 years, what does FounderMade look like, and what leadership do we need to have, and how do we need to act to get there? And so we're still working on that. That's like part of the awesome, evolution of building a business. But I think, you start off with, certain, and we're still a small team, but start off with certain level, then you need a different thing. The business needs a different thing. And, the good news is about our team is that we are not about one person. It's not about it's not the Meghan show. It's about the mission. And the mission is to help consumer brands build. And it's a very clear, it's like, are we discovering the best consumer brand and consumer innovations, and are we helping them build? That's like the clear thesis. And so we do what's best for our customers, and we do what's best for the team. We don't do it best for and the company. So it's not about any one person. It's about like really driving the value that we know as we, co-create this vision together.
What do you do with the B+ players then? Like the people on your team who could be better, but aren't right now?
So you have clear conversation. And this was like something that my advisor had told us to do, which is like, you have a clear communication with their manager, and you say, okay, so-and-so, like of your team, who's A+, who's B+, whatever it is. And then I want you to come up with a plan and a time frame of how you're going to get them from, B or B+ to A. And if you can't do that, then they need to, and I mean, this, again, we're still learning the practice of this, but it's just basically very clear communication on where people stand, and also making sure that people actually know what winning is. Because people may be spinning their wheels thinking that they're supposed to go right, but you really need them to go left. But they don't know, because you haven't been very clear with the communication of what the KPIs are and what the deliverables are and what the goals ultimately are for their position.
Yeah, everybody has to be aligned with what the why of the company is, right?
Mm-hmm.
You like physical fitness. You ran a marathon. You're very active. Why is that? Why is taking care of your physical health, your mental health so important to you? And has it ever come at a cost?
So I think that, and I guess this is the way that it's my meditation, is being able to work out every day. Being able to take time away from work and go into another country and do a crazy marathon and kind of stretch my limits. I mean, I'm supposed to do I'm supposed to do a marathon over Thanksgiving, Mount Fuji marathon, and I am not trained up for it. Yeah, I'm not trained up for it whatsoever. It's too cold in New York, and I don't want to do any long runs, and I'm being a total baby about it. But having these times in your life, because it's also these moments in your life where, you realize that at some point, all of us, we won't be able to physically do these types of things. We're only young for so long, and we're only able to do this. And so I think doing physical working out and being physically fit is a way of connecting to like the universe and your soul. Mm-hmm. And it's actually saying, I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for this time on earth that I actually get to move my body and push my limits and explore the world. I'm so grateful, creator, for letting me do this.
Okay. No, I feel like that's so important. I feel like a lot of us need to find those other things outside of work. Like for me, reading, I forgot how much I love reading, right? Like when I was younger, I was a huge like bibliophile. Like I love books. But then as you get older, as you get busier, I found myself that I was only reading self-help and business books, but my first love was fiction, right? So then like lately I've been really getting into just a really good fiction book, because that allows me, like, that's my refueling, and I feel like everybody really needs to focus in on those things outside of the dream or outside of like your business that you're building, because focusing on that will really, I think it pays off dividends in your business as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. Mm-hmm. Totally agree. It changes your whole energy about the business and energy about life, and you're able to give more when you do the exercise.
A lot of the companies that you've had at FounderMade have scaled, have grown. Looking back at some of your clients, right, what do you think are the key things that successful startups are doing in order to take their business or their brand to the next level?
Right. So I think number one is they're digital first. Obviously, that's one of the biggest things, is that they're digital first. They're really, using social media, using, digital marketing to really create the funnel and understand what the key metrics are that are driving ROI for their companies. So I think that's with everything. Like even if you're, a staffing agency, the way that you distinguish yourself could be that you're doing diversity. You're creating a whole campaign about, diversity recruitment and creating a whole mission around it, and then, getting more business. So I think there's just like a lot of key things that you can do. I think the other thing is obviously the hiring. In order to really win the game, you actually need to find people that have the same playbook. So we brought in like a CFO who helped scale consumer electronics show CES, which is like one of the biggest technology shows in the world.
Huge.
And we brought
in Las
him in.
Vegas, right? That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, we had nobody that had trade show experience or knew the playbook. And we brought him in last June, and it changed our business. And it made us, we didn't even know we didn't know anything about monetizing events or how to scale that or what the metrics that we needed to get to, and having us, and he had the playbook. He had sold a bunch of conference companies, and he basically became much more than a CFO. He really became like an advisor to us, and advised us on how we got to the goal and executed on the finance part of our business. So we feel really, I think that getting look at your business, think about what the comps are. So if you're doing a two-sided marketplace, you want to look at LinkedIn, Airbnb, Fiverr, you name it, and then you look at these executive teams that started off when they were 5 people, and you say, okay, these are the kinds of some people that I think we should get for key hires, or these are the people that would know the playbook on how to build this thing from the ground up. And then, even if you're just asking them to be on your advisory board or, just asking them for coffee for some quick advice, it helps.
Definitely. I love that you mentioned looking at your competitors, because I feel like a lot of people now, I don't know, maybe it's just things I've seen just through going through Instagram or something. I think a lot of people who have ideas are scared to do the research and scared to do the work. A lot of business building is behind the scenes, but I think social media also makes entrepreneurship very glamorous, right? What's the most unglamorous part of your job?
What's the most unglamorous? I mean, I know it is funny that I think the entrepreneurs, everybody, since they saw the Facebook movie, decided they want to be an entrepreneur. So I think, well, we have an amazing loft in Soho, and it's like this beautiful loft. It's huge. It's right on Broadway and Prince, but we have 4th flight stairs. And we have a lot of products that get delivered to our office, like a lot. So sometimes the delivery guy will leave it on the
Wait,
very
no
bottom.
Elevator? There's no
elevator. We've got an amazing deal in Soho for this incredible 2,500 square foot loft with it's a complete amazing New York City square loft, office loft. But the most unglamorous is when we had our gift bags and we were taking them down, and it was thousands of gift bags down the stairs. And I remember it was right before, I guess the movers hadn't, or whoever was supposed to pick them up hadn't shown up for the day of the event. And literally it's me sweating, at 4 or 5 in the morning down the stairs with 3 of our team members just trying to get that. And you think about you're oh, we love manual labor. This is really, but there's just these little things that you end up having to do, and you just do it, and there's no job too small. It's what it is, and you have to do it, and that's part of just building a business.
As a woman in this space, what advice would you give to other women or even younger girls looking up to you who are scared to step into their power, right? What would you say to that fellow lady?
I would say, don't ask for am I? Come into the power and say I am. And I think that that's something that we keep going and saying, am I this? Am I okay? Is my business right? Am I supposed to do this? And really, I think, and that's the thinking, going from thinking small to thinking I am. And even if you're saying it to yourself over and over again, I am this, and this is the dream, and I am, and I am, and I am, you'll start believing it. And it's just a matter of time and a matter of perseverance, a matter of taking action towards the goal.
Right now, Meghan, what's keeping you going?
I mean, I love what I do. So I'm always going to, I think work is like partially like, I think people probably look at their hobbies and like what they do on the weekends as, the thing that is their outlet. For me, I know, it's great that we do really well, like, and have hit like all of our revenue goals, and we're going to continue to do all this special, make a lot of money and live our best lives. But like, to me, I'm like, my friends are like, well, when you're really rich, like, what will you do? And I'm like, I would start some more businesses. I probably like invest in a bunch of businesses. I start some more businesses. I don't see myself ever quitting, because I think it's like part of like my genes, my dad and how he likes to build. I love, there's nothing more exciting to me than, coming up with an idea and building it and building a team around it and creating a, work family team, and sharing in those experiences. So, it's really, very meaningful. My 9-year-old self is definitely smiling.
You know what? I was going to ask you about your dad. What does he think about FounderMade now? And has he ever tried to give you any advice? You know how our parents love to give us advice. My dad is still telling me, Raina, go to business school, get a master's. But what is your dad saying to you about FounderMade nowadays?
It's he used to always give me a ton of advice. He still tries to give me advice, but he comes to all the conferences, and he comes up to all the exhibitors, and they're like, he's like, I'm Megan's dad. Well, nobody knows now at this point, like, who Megan's dad is. And he's testing everything. He's like buying all the products, and like, oh my gosh, it's really a whole, he's living his best, most, consumer discovery life at our conferences. So, I love, it's actually been an interesting journey with him, because I always wanted to please him. And I thought that if I worked in finance and I made a lot of money, that it would please him. And what I realized, or if I went to the best schools, like I went to business school to kind of please him. And what I realized is the day that I actually decided to do something that I loved, and I built something that was meaningful to me, and that was like what really, mattered to me is the day that he, really accepted, like, and started believing in the same vision. And now he's so proud, and he's like, I'm so proud of you. I love this. And I think to myself, like, how lucky am I? Like, one day he's not going to be there. And like, how lucky is it that he gets to come and we get to have these, like, he gets to come to these shows. And, it's really that, to me, like, those are the most amazing memories that I have of our conferences, is walking with my dad around them. So
I love that. It's funny. Like a few months ago, I caught my dad in my basement, like in the basement, and he's on the desktop computer. And it's like, he had the Dreams and Drive website up, and he was listening to an episode, and he was like shaking his head as he was listening, but he didn't see that I could see him. And it was such a nice moment, right? Like, our parents are so proud of what we're accomplishing. So me being able to witness that, like, that was fuel for me,
Beautiful.
So let's go to our lightning round, Meghan. This part of the interview, I'm going to give you a quick prompt, and I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to mind, and we're sticking with our whole Dreams and Drive metaphor, okay?
Great.
All right, so the first word is park.
Too slow.
Reverse.
Don't look back.
Neutral.
Boring.
And last but not least, drive.
Dream.
And if you want to be a dream driver, you have to have your keys to success. So Meghan, tell me 3 things that you think every dream driver needs in their toolkit before they hit the road.
Positivity, perseverance, and giving.
Why is the giving part so important?
Because at the end of the day, I think that the only way that you actually build a business is if you actually know that you're truly giving and that you're actually driving value to, your team, to your customers, to the world.
Oh, can you tell our dream drivers where they can find FounderMade online if they want to connect with you guys more, learn more about your events?
Yes. So you can find us on foundermade.com, FounderMade.com. And you can find out about, we do a consumer discovery show. So we have a consumer discovery show happening in June, New York, 2019, June 26, 2019, and October 16th in Los Angeles in 2019. So excited for you guys to become a part of the community, and love it. Thanks for having me.
All right, so that's a wrap for episode 186 with Meghan Asha. I hope you enjoyed hearing her dream driving journey as well as her keys to success. If you love this episode, please, please, please share it on social media. Share it with a friend. pass it along to somebody, whether it's a screenshot, whether you tell, the person you're sitting next to at work when the bus stop, please pay it forward. I am really, really grateful for all of you guys who are sharing and helping to grow the Dreams and Drive community. So please, in 2019, continue to do it. Know that I appreciate you. If you have not already subscribed to our channel, please, please, please make sure that you're subscribed so that you get notifications every time we have a new episode. And if you're somebody who's avid on YouTube, make sure you find us on YouTube and subscribe, because I plan on releasing some content on YouTube pretty soon. And if you want to get some Dreams and Drive gear, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/shop and you can use the code New Year's to get an extra 10% off. We have crew neck, hoodies, and t-shirts still available. Show notes are always available at dreamsanddrive.com, and make sure that you join our Facebook group. Just go to dreamsanddrive.com/Facebook to sign up, or you can search Dream Driver Mastermind the next time you're logged on to Facebook. I am also looking for brands, individual service providers who want to get their message out to a broad audience. I'm looking to partner with some sponsors this year, so if you're interested in that, you can always email me directly, Rana@dreamsanddrive.com. Can't wait to just dive into the evolved Dreams and Drive. I think every year it's kind of like a peeling back, right? We get new skin, we shed the old skin, and I'm ready to just really bet on myself. As I've mentioned before, this whole quitting my job journey has been a bit scary, but I think what we have to do is just remember that we all have a unique gift, we all have a unique purpose, and if we really tap into that and fight through the times where we just don't feel like doing anything, there's always a blessing on the other side, and there's always something beautiful that we learn about ourselves and the world. So as Megan said in this episode, be committed to switching that am I mentality to that I am mentality, and see what happens for yourself and see what happens to the dream that you're driving. As always, keep dreaming, keep driving, and we'll chat again in episode 187. Bye, guys.